I'm super excited to be talking to our newest guest for the Mango Voice YouTube channel. Dee and I have run in the same lanes for a long time, but I've never gotten an opportunity to really just sit and get to know you, your background, and then we get to talk about AI. So Dee, welcome to the Mango Voice YouTube channel.
Thanks. It's been great. Yes, we have. We've kind of complimented each other along the way. And so this is going to be a great conversation. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I've looked up to Dee. I've seen her on stage. You're an amazing speaker. I know you've done a lot of amazing things in our industry, and I actually don't know a lot about your background. So if you want to give me kind of just us and anybody listening who you are and how long you've been in dental, you don't have to give specifics, right? But and tell us a little bit about your background so we know where your perspective's coming from.
Well, I thought I was going to be a dentist, to be quite honest. I went down that road and then decided, I talked to my dean. I don't think I'm going to be a good dentist. It's not working for me. I want to talk to people and they can't talk. They have stuff in their mouths. And then, they brought in the injections and they said, I said, well, where's the patient? They said, we practice on each other. I said, they're not for me. I don't think so. But anyway, went through it and then decided to go to business, did that and kind of put the two of them together, came out of school and put 16 oral surgeries together, which wasn't being done at that time. And then, became very involved in a 200 plus DSO. We built it up to that, left that. And then I did a design build company, about 150 across the country. I won a great award for design. So that was fun. So, but now it's more of, I'm like you, we have to teach the younger generation. I really feel that there's a lot of good things about things that we've done. There's a lot of good change coming, but I really think if you can marry them together, it's going to be so powerful. And so it's time to say, hey, I always say to the younger generation, listen up. It's a good thing. And let's teach each other as we move along.
Actually, that's funny you bring that up because one of the stages I've seen you on is on this one right here. Dental Entrepreneur Woman. If you're a woman listening to this or a team that has a women, you should definitely check out that organization because it's all about, leaving the ladder down and building it up for those behind us.
For sure. And I think, like I said, I think, I would say knowledge is power. Don't be afraid to give away knowledge. I know sometimes you try to harbor it, but we shouldn't. And because when you give away one pearl, you get back two. I think that's an important way for us to look at it. And that's why I'm excited we're doing this because, everything that's happening now in the dental world, people are questioning, what do I do? Where do I start? What does this look like for me? Is this a good career? Just had someone come up to me and said, should my son become a dentist? I said, if he loves it, why not? Why not? So, and it's just change, right? And change management sometimes can be difficult, but I think right now we're there in dental.
Yeah, for sure. Which I love that. That's the whole role that I'm trying to play here at Mango Voice is just get conversations going around this. So specifically, you've been in dentistry for a while. You've seen all the evolution and the change and stuff, but we are at a big impactful change, which is with AI. So I'm going to turn the stage over to you for a little bit and tell me what your thoughts are around AI, where you think we are currently, where you think we're going, and then I'll kind of dig in a little bit on some of those subjects now and in our future interviews.
So I think AI is going to be a great tool. I think there's a learning curve with it. I think that we have to, I always say to people all the time when the internet came out and then Google, we were all like, what is this? I think AI is going to teach us two things. I think it's going to teach us, number one, to be efficient. And also, do we have the right people in the right seat now? I mean, it's a good identifier. So I'm excited about AI. It is a buzzword right now. I would tell everyone it's a buzzword. That's what we're all talking about. But the one thing about AI that I really like, it could drive performance. And people say, what do you mean by that? So let's talk about a phone call. Let's just talk about a phone call with AI, right? And I said, well, we're not going to start there. And they said, well, why not? I said, well, are you measuring your phone calls? Do you know how many you're missing? AI is not going to fix that maybe in the beginning if you don't even know the data that you're working with. So I think, instead of just jumping into AI, understanding what do you want the AI to do for you? And I think that's where some of us miss it because let's put everything in and see how it goes. It's kind of like, yeah, I don't think that works sometimes. Maybe for some it does. But if you really sit and digest and you look at, I'll just take a system, a phone call, right? Look at, I was with a doctor the other day and she said, you know what? I'm really upset. I said, what? She said, what you told me. She said, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we averaged about 12 missed calls. Well, on Friday, we had someone out and we missed 33 phone calls. She was like blown away. And I said, yes, But then I said, "How do you fix that?" And she was like, "Oh, I don't know." I said, "Well, you do know. You just haven't learned the process, right?" So that's where I think AI is very helpful and we don't have to be fearful of it.
Right, right. Yeah, that's kind of that concept as I don't know the answer yet, right? So we have to be in a growth mindset of being knowing that there is a solution out there or coming, but we just don't know what it is yet. And AI gives us that tool. So you every time I talk to you, I hear about how you're with this organization or that group or whatever. So you look at AI not just at the doctor level, which I love you give those examples, but you actually look at it at a larger organizational, bigger company level. So can you just tell us a little bit about, your role and where you are in the world when it comes to dental now?
Sure. I'm looking at how do we implement AI for efficiencies, and looking at those efficiencies are really important because then we can use our team members at a different position. And what does that all look like? So I'll sit with the executive teams and say, okay, if we roll in this AI, what are the three things we want out of it? You want clarity on how it's going to work for you, right? You want to be able to communicate to your team that this is not a fearful object, right? And then the last thing is you want to know, is it cost prohibitive? So I look at budgets, right? So I'm looking at all that and saying, okay, if we were to roll this in, okay, where are we becoming efficient? What does that look like? And then you can then take it down to the provider level and say, look, you know what? You were missing 10 calls a day. Now we're going to get 10 calls a day and be able to get them scheduled on the book. Then it becomes a revenue generator. When you could look at AI as a revenue generator, I think it changes the mindset. Oh, but you have to understand the bigger picture on what are you exactly setting out for AI to do. And what I find is, Laura, and you probably, we've been through this a long time. Like I said, when the internet came out, it kind of reminds me of, I know this is how old I am. We used to have paper books and then we went to computers. Oh, the computer was going to solve everything. No, it made us more efficient, but we had to develop a system for it to work. Right.
Right.
So I think that's where we really have to educate people on understanding the system that you want AI to bring. What does that look like? And then getting the clarity and the implementation of it.
So that would be a great subject in the future. And that's really what I'm hoping to do is bring you on for conversations because I think that one of those is like, as a leadership team, how do we even know if our system is working or not? How do we even know how to plug in the AI? Because it seems like every time I turn around, there's another solution. It's just one more. Well, this one's going to save you, right? This is going to save you this, and it's like, well, how do you even know what could be working or should be working or you're ready for in your organization?
I'm a big believer in scorecards and metrics.
Okay.
I'll go back to, my numbers don't lie. Like for instance, and the number one tip I give my clients is, do you have a scorecard for phone calls? In fact, I'm doing a workshop at 5 o'clock for that today. Okay. What do you mean? Do you have a scorecard for work? Do you measure how many calls come in a day and how many are not answered? Because I'm really great that you answer some, but I'm more interested in what you're not answering. Right. So what does that look like? And let's just say you miss 10 phone calls and your average life value for a patient is $1,000. You've just lost $10,000, right? So I look at that and say, and I will take it for a month and then we'll say, well, they missed 150 phone calls. So let's just say they were going to, make $1,000, 150,000. Even if we converted 50% of that, that's 75,000. And then all of a sudden the executive team is listening, right? Everybody's listening. But I don't think they realize what they're missing. So you got to measure, and I always say is measure from what is the number one tool in a dental front office is the phone. And then the person who's answering the phone, right? So I look at those things and say, how can AI or any other tool help you? And I think you made a good point, Laura. You said it's changing so quickly. And on my recommendation to people is stay with what you know. It's like Atomic Habit. If you read Atomic Habit, you have to leave it in there. Okay. And just because another shiny object comes along, it might not be the best thing for you. Right.
Right.
So
Right.
and I think trusted vendors, like I said, like yourself and others that are working with companies that we all trust, that we know have their best interests for the providers is where you need to go, honestly.
Right, right. So I don't know if you've even thought about this, but as I start to dig deeper and deeper into AI and what it's going to be doing and what it can do, one of the benefits that I've seen is I still remember you talk about going back in the old days. Like, I remember floppy disks when I'd have to update the insurance and put in the floppy disks. I mean, people who are younger, you have to look that up. But back in the day, right? And then now look at the technology we have now, right? I remember when we started getting VoIP phones and we started doing call recordings, and I was against it. I was an office manager and I was like, I don't want anybody recording my calls, right? But now I know the benefit of recording your calls, monitoring your phones. I mean, it's the most important piece of technology in the office. The newest thing that I've realized is like we have Margot, who's the AI agent who can answer phones, right? We can do AI call recordings and summary of your calls. Now we've moved from just what's going on with the phones to what's going on with the phone call. So have you thought much about that? Because we now have the actual transcript, the actual information of the actual phone calls to be able to coach and help our team members get even better.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. It's like, do you really know what's going on with your phone calls? You know, we're sometimes we're in a tough market, right? And we cannot get the staff or the team member we want trained up so quickly. So I'm a big believer, lean on your AI, lean on your, your online scheduling, because we can train AI to do what we need them to do as long as we know what we're training to. But it goes back to how do we implement that with the current team members that are there? But it's true. It's like, do you really know the conversations that are being had? Like for, perfect example, you've heard this over and over. Someone calls the, office and says, do you take insurance? No, we don't take any insurance. Boom. Okay. Well, that's not the way we would handle it. And maybe that's not the way an AI agent would handle it for you. What do you want? So I think if you go into with clarity and sit down, I would the greatest thing that I do, I think that really helps teams is they say, okay, what's the 10 touch points of a phone call that you want? What do you want to accomplish? What does that look like? And can we accomplish that also with an AI feature? If someone's not answering the phone, what does that look like? So as long as they know their touch points and what they want to, they then have clarity. Because how many times you go in an office, I don't know, someone answers the phone this way. We all answer, we try and answer the same way, but it's like I did this test the other day. If someone calls in and has an emergency, what do we say? 3 different people gave me 3 different answers, right? Well, you gotta be clear. You're building scripts for this, right? So we need to make sure in my mind that our team members are saying the same things as our AI agent. And I think that gives us consistency. So to
Right.
me, that's a big thing with the way that we're going with the processes.
Yeah, and so that's a really good, and I love this. We can kind of go down this road of I think we have to slow down to speed up. I know that many times dentists would say to me over the years, they'd pass the person on the front desk and they'd say, I know they're not handling the phones right, like the way they should be, but I don't know what they should be saying, right? They know they shouldn't be saying no, but what should we be saying? So what you're saying is we really need to slow down to speed up in the sense of how do we want AI to do this for us? Or how do we want to improve this? Because we can train it once, whatever it is, schedule, phones, insurance, and it's trained going forward, right? So it's really asking those questions like, how do we want emergency calls handled?
And that's why, like, we take 5 scenarios and say an emergency, someone that wants to schedule for a large shoot, whatever it may be. You should lay out your touch points and then have consistency with your team members. And then you'll have consistency with your AI. Because I think one of the dangers that happens is, well, I called your office and made an appointment, but I don't know who I talked to, but it wasn't what you're saying. Right. And that again, it destroys your credibility. Right. So I think it's really important to protect that. And that's where I'm telling people, don't be afraid of AI. Understand the change that has to happen. Understand the implementation program that has to happen. And we can do another one about how we implement that. What we're talking another series on that. But I think just getting that clarity just from the beginning. It's like one of the things that it was so funny. I was telling someone the other day who happens to have mango, right? And they love what the feature's done, but they said, Dee, we did our homework with you. We did our homework. And when they were very hesitant in the beginning because they didn't do their homework. Like I said, you can't have 16 members and a provider saying they want all different things. So the key to AI is what I'm telling everyone. It's AI. That means there's alignment. You gotta have alignment. That's what I tell everyone. I said, that's my new thing. KPI. No, now I'm going to AI alignment. We have to have alignment and integration. That's what AI means to me.
Right. And I think that so I've been to a bunch of organizations, everything AI, I try to go to it. And I think that even at the team level, it's a little like, what is it? How do we use it? What do we do? And then at the executive level, it feels like everybody feels like they're behind. It gets that like we should have But really, it's coming so fast and you're not really behind, but it's not something that you just jump in and hand it over and say, "Okay, go AI," because it can really mess up your organization. Are you talking with, higher level executives about that too?
Yeah, so my phrase to that is, "It's gradual, then it's sudden."
Mm, mhm,
That's my phrase to them. It's like, "You gotta do this gradually. Once you get your program down, then it's sudden. Once it's sudden, stay with it." And like I said, it's kind of like I equate this to, like, practice management systems. I was lecturing the other day, I said, "This is like practice management systems." And we had Dentrix, then we had Ascend, then we had this one, and people were changing all the time, right? Because they were going to the new shiny penny, and they realized we're still using the same features, but in a different way, right?
mhm,
So
mhm,
they go back to, if you find a program that's working for you and you implement it and then you want to improve on it, that's fine, but give it time. And that's when the gradual comes in. Do your homework, understand what you're getting into, and then it's sudden, make it happen. The worst thing that I see all the time is analysis by paralysis. Like, yeah, we should have did that. No, don't look at that. We should have did. Look at what can we do now to even make it better for us.
Mhm. Well, what we'll do is going forward, I'd love this conversation. I'd love to pick your brain a little bit about how to be gradual, how to know what systems are we trying to fix, how do we know what companies to work with, and then how do we get our teams to embrace and to change because it's change and it is going to be sudden. And if we can kind of help our teams through it, we're going to do better.